every now and then things occur on this show where, especially in the more recent seasons, where I can't roll with RAQ, man. And her situation with Kanan is one of them, where, at this point, I'm actually pretty frustrated with RAQ. It's like, I don't understand why she doesn't understand how to go about fixing this relationship with Kanan. Because it's like, he doesn't really talk to her, but he's not... I understand the end goal was that she wanted to have Kanan back home, but I just can't get with the way that she went about doing it. And I think it's going to end up blowing up in her face long term. Putting the gun in Kanan's bag to get him in trouble at school and ultimately force him back home was just not at all the right way to go about doing things. I still feel like sometimes the best way forward is the simplest way forward, where she should have just sat Kanan down, explained the situation to him, apologized, and just cleared the air between them. But it speaks to, like, RAQ's frame of mind and how she handles things, right? We've seen everyone else apologize and do so sincerely and correct their behavior, right? Or at least make an attempt to correct their behavior, right? You look at, best example would be Marvin, who's exhibited the greatest amount of growth over the seasons, right? And you look at it where he's still making an effort to improve himself, to get better. Where even in this episode, we see him meeting up with the guy that he met at the anger management classes. And him, them coming to this understanding that they benefited from this support group and they need it in their lives, that even if it's just the two of them, they can get back together and support each other in staying the course on their quest to get better and to kind of excise some of their demons, right? We've seen him apologize to Jukebox. We saw Lou apologize to Jukebox. But somehow, for whatever reason, in previous seasons, like, RAQ has apologized to Kanan, but like, just continues to manipulate him, right? Generally speaking, while the show is supposed to be centered around Kanan, I think, like, maybe we misunderstood the title of Raising Kanan, where certainly it's about Kanan, but really about the ways in which his mom messed him up, right? Where the first season, I didn't think it was the best way to handle it, but there was some logic and I understood why she called on him to try to get Howard out of the way, right? Because Howard posed a threat to her, but Howard also posed a threat to Kanan. Even during the second season, I understood why she tried to keep the lie going, right? She was trying to protect herself and again to protect Kanan. At this point here, there's no reason for her to continue lying to Kanan. He already knows the truth. So it's like, you should be able to just apologize, clear the air, change your behavior going forward, and make an honest and genuine effort at rebuilding your relationship with your son. But for whatever reason, it's like she just can't do right. And it's like, I kind of found Kanan a little bit whiny. Right? But that's not really the case here. Like, RAQ is messed up, man. I can't get with it, man. I feel like the show is trying to turn you against RAQ, right? But we can only deal with the show as it's written. I feel like the character now that we have in RAQ is a tremendous departure from the RAQ that we saw in the first season. It feels like two very, very different characters. But it's like we don't have a choice but to deal with this current iteration of RAQ. And I just can't deal with it, man. But then again, it's like you look at it just last season with Symphony. Granted, she dialed it back with him when she even, that she even briefly considered killing Symphony. You know, as far as to show up at his house, sitting outside of his house, they're ready to kill him. And she had like second thoughts at the last minute. Whereas just a few episodes prior, you were trying to get back together with him. You know, you were hoping to have him be a part of this vision of this family living in this house. At the end of the first season, you were talking about having kids with this man. And here it is that you would consider killing him. You know, you want Kanan back home, and you go to such lengths to potentially put him in danger, to potentially put him into problems to get him back home. Obviously, Kanan knows that that's not his gun. Kanan knows it's not his gun. He didn't put it in his bag. It had to come from somewhere. It's a messy situation. Why? Because she planted the gun in his backpack in front of Famous. And it requires counting on Famous being so afraid of her that he doesn't tell Kanan. It's just, the risk is just so high because it's like, ultimately it's going to come out. And when Kanan finds out, it's like we see news travels through the family, right? She's on the outs with Kanan and Lou. It would lead to tension, if not a break, with Jukebox and Marvin because it's so wrong. So it's like right now where you at least have the two of them where they still deal with you, you'll end up alienating the entire family. It's just terrible, man. And like I said, this thing of Ronnie where he's a problem, man, because it didn't really make any sense for him to kill Dean because he doesn't stand to gain anything from it. It's this revenge thing, right? It's the same thing with the bouncer. The situation was over, but because he felt disrespected, he killed the bouncer. Stood to benefit or gain nothing from it. If anything, it's just increased potential for problems. Him killing Dean, he actually disrespected Dean, right? And Dean let him rock. Dean gave Unique a heads up just to let Unique know, like, hey, just let you know your man came to approach me and I think you might need to handle that situation. I don't think that's snitching, right? Because he didn't tell your business. You involved him in a situation that he didn't want to be a part of. You know, he had dealings with your brother and wanted to let him know, like, keep your man at bay. You know, and him killing Dean, there was no real reason for that. Why? Because Dean's already spoken to Unique. Unique knows that you went to Dean and spoke to him behind his back. Unique came and spoke to you about it. You denied it. And then here it is that Dean just pops up dead. You know, not like, oh, you know, he slipped and fell down the steps or, you know, he choked on a peanut or something like that. Like he was viciously stabbed to death at what seems to be either his or his grandmother's house. Who else would have killed him? You know, what do you stand to gain from that? So it's like, this dude is just like a sociopath. Like, he's out here, and at first it seemed like he was standing on business, to, you know, to use the current phrase. But really, like, he's just out here being a menace. Because as we see, like, he doesn't really have, like, his business together. He's just out here just wreaking havoc. And things are just going to get worse from here. You know, it's... In the earlier seasons, we really just saw, you know, mostly like the street stuff between RAQ and Unique. We didn't see much of Unique's, like, home life, just like little glimpses. This season, we've always seen RAQ at home, Kanan at home. But this season, we've seen more of Unique at home. And it's like, you realize there's dysfunction in both families, right? And a lot of it is caused by the stuff going on in the street. Where you look at it, Unique seemed to have a good thing going with his child's mother. You know, she asked him about him dealing with other women, and he didn't deny it. He basically told her, like, you know, he takes care of her and their son, and that's all she should be concerned with. That's a terrible response. and you see problems brewing between Unique and his brother. And then it's like the two of them are going to go head to head eventually. It just has to happen. And all of that, you create problems in your relationship with your child mother, and RAQ then pretty much drops him. I did not see this as being a long-term thing between him and RAQ, right? At least I was hoping that it wasn't, because I just don't see it for the two of them. It's too much drama, right? It's too much mess. If she's trying to get out of this life, her being involved with Unique, it just brings all of that back to her again. But it's the manipulation of it. I felt from jump, she's probably attracted to him, but that's not a long-term thing, that she conveniently drops him at this point when Kanan is back home. The only reason I think Unique was even in that house was because Kanan wasn't there. And it's ultimately you get the sense that RAQ doesn't really care about anyone else. Or at least there's a limit to how much she cares about anyone else, right? Initially, I felt with Jukebox and Kanan, yes. But you realize, even there's limits, right? We haven't seen it really with Jukebox, but with Kanan, yeah, because it's she'll operate in her own self-interest and what's best for her as far as what she wants over what's best for Kanan. Because what she did to Kanan was just completely messed up. I can't get behind that. It was devious, and it got the job done in forcing him back home, but it's still going to be a different vibe because he's not there willingly. He doesn't want to be there. It's you've made this house, but it's not a home. He has a room there, but that's not where he wants to be. She's happy to have him back home. He looks miserable to be there. And then here it is that her and Howard are still meeting up. At some point, Kanan is probably going to end up relaying that to his uncles. That's fishy business. RAQ having these, late at night clandestine meetings with Howard. And it's it's just problems all around. I wouldn't want to be a part of any of this, but it is incredibly interesting to see, and it's shaping up to be a very compelling story. I don't want to say that I don't like RAQ anymore, but it's becoming increasingly difficult to root for her. She's turning into the bad guy on the show. And I'm kind of sad about it because I liked first season RAQ. Second season, I was eh. Third season, I don't really like the way that she's moving. It's just, you gotta have a code, man. And she's just breaking all the rules. I'm curious to see how things shake out with Lou and now Marvin getting involved with this business here in Manhattan. And if RAQ is then going to get involved with that as well. I appreciated that Lou is really making an honest effort now to stay out of the street business, and really making a push to do something else, and this thing of, which Marvin ultimately came to respect and honor, or thus far, of not bringing the street business into the club, and it's going to be interesting to see how that shakes out. So, I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. We're just, 4 episodes in, and so much has happened. You've seen so much character development, and it's slowly building towards what I know is going to be an insane end to the season. And it's 6 weeks away, but it's these past 4 weeks already have been incredibly exciting and engrossing, and I know the rest of the season, if it continues on this path, maintains the same energy, that it's gonna be an insane season, and I'm interested to see where things go from here. It's I'm vested with all of the characters' stories. So, looking forward to it. Thanks for tuning in. To ensure you don't miss any episodes, subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell, and check out my playlist. Go ahead and click the thumbs up button if you like what you saw.